Every night, billions of people drift into the dark, eyes closed, minds open. We call it rest, but inside that silence, the brain begins its secret work. It paints, it remembers, it wanders. And somewhere in that endless space, it dreams. Most people wake up and move on. But there are others, people who speak of something different. Of dreams that follow them long after sunrise. Of faces that reappear night after night. Of sounds that come from nowhere, calling them back each time they close their eyes. Some describe it as déjà vu. Others call it sleep paralysis. But for those who've truly experienced it, it's something else. Something that feels aware. They say dreams are harmless, a safe place where the mind wanders freely. But what if that isn't true? What if what you see when you sleep is seeing you back? You tell yourself it's just imagination. You tell yourself it's your mind playing tricks. But deep down, there's a moment, right before you wake, when your body knows the truth. Because sometimes, people don't just dream. They encounter something that waits for the lights to go out. Something that knows exactly where they are, and what they fear most. And if you ever feel someone standing beside your bed, even when your eyes are shut tight, try to remember this. Every dream begins somewhere inside you, but not every dream stays there. Tonight, we open a door that most people never even realize exists, the world behind closed eyes. A place where memories twist, thoughts take shape, and fear has no rules. For some, dreams are simple stories, harmless, forgotten by morning. But for others, they become something else. Something that leaves behind fingerprints long after they've awakened. We've gathered real cases, from survivors who speak of being trapped in their own minds. People who claim their nightmares began to change, adapting, remembering, learning. Experts have tried to explain it. Brain chemistry, neural misfires, subconscious trauma. But when you listen closely to the patterns, the question isn't how the mind creates such terror, it's whether the dream is truly coming from the mind at all. Tonight, we explore those edges, the stories that were never meant to be told. The dreams that started like any other, and ended in something unexplainable. Stay until the end, because the final story might stay with you. Some who've heard it before said they began to dream of it later that same night. You may think you're safe while watching this. But remember, your mind never truly sleeps. When we close our eyes, the world fades away, but the brain awakens. During a stage known as REM sleep, our bodies lie still while our minds begin to move. Electrical storms surge across the cortex. Images form. Faces appear. Time bends and folds in ways that no waking moment can match. In these moments, the brain disconnects us from reality to protect us, preventing us from acting out what we see. Yet, somehow, the heart still races. Muscles twitch. The body reacts, as though it doesn't fully believe the dream is fake. Science calls it subconscious imagery. A side effect of memory and emotion stitched together while we sleep. But this explanation, neat as it sounds, doesn't fit everything. Across history, long before the age of neuroscience, dreams were never seen as illusions. To the ancient Egyptians, they were messages sent by the gods. To the Greeks, warnings from beyond the mortal world. In tribes scattered across the deserts and forests, dreams were journeys, a crossing between this life and another. Many believed the dream world wasn't born inside us, but reached into us. That when the eyes closed, the soul stepped out. Into a place without walls, where other things could find it. Even now, fragments of that belief remain. We still wake up shaken by faces we've never seen, by voices that call our names, by places we've never been, yet somehow know. Maybe the ancients weren't entirely wrong. Maybe our dreams are not within us, but doorways, small openings into something vast, something that watches, and waits. Have we misunderstood what happens when the mind drifts beyond the veil? Our first case comes from a quiet neighborhood outside Melbourne, Australia. A 29-year-old woman, we'll call her Claire, began documenting a series of recurring dreams that left her frightened to sleep. In each dream, she described waking up in her own bedroom. Everything appeared normal, the same curtains, the same faint glow from the streetlight outside. But there was always something else. A figure. It stood in the far corner of the room. Motionless. Watching. At first, it kept its distance. But every night, it moved closer. One step. Then another. Always silent. Always the same shape. A human outline, darker than the dark around it. Claire began to notice something strange, the sound of breathing. Soft. Close. It didn't match hers. She tried to rationalize it. Stress. Fatigue. A trick of the light. But soon, she stopped sleeping entirely. Because even when she was awake, she thought she could see it. Desperate for proof, she installed a small camera in her bedroom. She told friends it was just for peace of mind, a way to convince herself it was all in her head. For 2 nights, nothing happened. But on the third, the footage showed Claire sitting upright at 3:07 a.m. Her eyes were open, but unfocused. Her mouth moved, slowly, as if she was speaking to someone. But the room was empty. When investigators reviewed the audio, they found faint patterns under the noise. Breaths that didn't belong to her, and a low voice repeating a single phrase they couldn't fully decipher. The next morning, Claire woke with dark bruises on both arms. Finger-shaped. Fresh. She lives with the footage locked away. She says she can't bear to watch it again, because every time she dreams now, she still feels someone standing there. Close enough to touch. If it was only a dream, how do you explain the marks? Would you dare record your own sleep, just to see what happens when you can't move, can't wake, and something decides to visit? If you're brave enough, stay with us, because what comes next will make you question where dreams truly end. In the late 1980s, a series of secret research programs began surfacing across the world. Projects designed to study the hidden layers of human consciousness. Most were harmless, studies in sleep behavior, brainwave mapping, REM response. But a few went further. They called it Project Morpheus. The goal was simple: to make 2 subjects share a single dream. Researchers believed if the human mind could synchronize its dream patterns with another, we might be able to communicate, without words, without sound, purely through thought. At first, the experiments showed promise. Subjects reported identical imagery, the same room, the same door, the same unseen figure standing beyond it. But every time they woke, their descriptions became less consistent, less human. One participant, labeled Morpheus 7, was known for remarkable dream recall. On the 12th test night, connected to the neural interface, she entered REM within 3 minutes. Brain activity spiked, normal at first, but soon began producing impossible data. The instruments showed 2 sets of consciousness patterns. 2 distinct wave signatures. One belonging to her. The other, origin unknown. Technicians thought it was a machine error. Then they realized the second signal wasn't interfering, it was responding. Every fluctuation in her brainwaves matched a second pattern, milliseconds apart, as if something was replying. At 3:41 a.m., Morpheus 7's vital signs became unstable. Her breathing slowed. She stopped responding to verbal prompts. But her brain activity continued to rise, far beyond safe thresholds. Then, it just stopped. The session log recorded 6 minutes of flatline. Then, unexpectedly, one final audio fragment. A whisper. Faint, distorted. Barely caught by the microphones. When slowed and enhanced, it revealed a phrase. Just 3 words. He's awake now. No further experiments were ever conducted under Project Morpheus. The files were sealed. But several of the researchers later reported recurring dreams, each one beginning in the same dark corridor, and ending at a closed door. There's a moment between sleep and waking when your body doesn't respond, but your mind is completely aware. Scientists call it sleep paralysis. It's common. Ordinary, they say. But those who've truly experienced it, don't call it that. They call it the waking nightmare. In the clinical sense, sleep paralysis occurs when the brain wakes before the body does. The mind becomes conscious, but the muscles remain frozen. You can't move. You can't speak. All you can do is look. And that's when it starts. You feel awake, but can't move. You hear footsteps. The air thickens. A shadow appears in your peripheral vision. It moves, but you can't turn your head to see it. For some, it's a tall figure wearing a wide-brimmed hat. They call him the Hat Man. He never speaks, never blinks, just stands at the edge of the bed, watching. Others see a woman, thin, frail, crawling onto their chest. They call her the Old Hag. Her weight presses down until breathing becomes impossible. And then there's the smiling one. Always grinning. Always close. His face hovers inches away, as if waiting for you to blink. Science explains it as a mix of REM intrusion, panic response, and hallucination caused by chemical imbalance. A trick of the half-awake brain. A ghost born from oxygen deprivation and fear. Dr. Evelyn Marsh, neurologist, during paralysis, dream imagery and waking reality merge. The mind believes what it sees, even if the body can't react. But what science doesn't explain is the consistency. The same figures. The same faces. Appearing across cultures, across generations, to people who've never met, describing the same visitors. What connects them? Coincidence? Or something watching from the same place our dreams come from? What if the paralysis isn't your body, but your soul being held still? If you've ever woken unable to move, staring into the dark, feeling eyes on you that you can't see, remember this. You're not imagining the presence in the room. You're remembering it. In 1997, a clinical psychologist named Dr. Alina Krauss began a research project on recurring nightmares. Her goal was simple, to find patterns between dream symbols across patients with chronic insomnia. But what she found shouldn't have been possible. Within months, dozens of her patients, from different towns, different backgrounds, began recording identical dreams. Not similar. Identical. Same locations. Same phrases. The same figure waiting in the shadows. They all drew the same image, a tall figure without eyes, standing in a doorway of light. And beneath each sketch, the same words appeared, written in trembling handwriting. Dr. Krauss compiled these journals into what became known as the Lost Dream Diaries. She believed the entity represented a shared trauma, a collective symbol formed by the subconscious. But then she started dreaming of him too. Her assistant reported that Dr. Krauss began arriving to work exhausted. Pale. Her handwriting changed, smaller, rushed. Her own diary entries started mirroring her patients. She described hearing breathing in her sleep. A presence watching from the corner of her room. She wrote that the figure no longer stayed in dreams, that it was waiting when she woke. The last page of her journal ends mid-sentence, "He's standing by my bed." When her colleagues found the diary, the ink was smudged, as if the paper had been soaked in tears. But the question remains, if dreams are reflections of our mind, whose mind was she seeing? Throughout history, there have been deaths no one could explain. Perfectly healthy people, who went to sleep, and never woke up. In the late 20th century, doctors across Southeast Asia documented a strange phenomenon, men and women dying suddenly in their sleep. No signs of struggle. No poison. No disease. It was called sudden unexplained nocturnal death syndrome. In local folklore, it already had a name, the dream death. Survivors who woke moments before their heart stopped described the same experience, a crushing weight on their chest, something whispering in a language they couldn't understand, and eyes watching from just beyond the dark. Some said the moment they saw it, they felt their breath leave their body. As if something had reached inside, and taken what it came for. What if these dreams aren't random at all? What if certain nightmares don't come from the mind, but to it? A parasitic consciousness, feeding on the human mind when it's most vulnerable. When the walls between worlds are at their thinnest. And maybe that's why you sometimes wake up in the middle of the night, gasping, certain that something was in the room. Maybe, it still is. Have you ever woken up with that feeling, that you weren't alone? Comment below if you felt it too. For decades, sleep researchers have dismissed recurring nightmares as stress responses, the mind trying to process fear. But there's another theory. A quieter one. Buried in journals that never made it to print. They called it the dream collector. A presence that doesn't just watch your dreams, it gathers them. It begins with a single nightmare. Then another. Each time, it learns more about you, your fears, your memories, the shape of your voice when you cry out. And when you dream enough times, it no longer needs to wait for you to fall asleep. Some researchers believe those recurring nightmares, the ones that wake you up at the same time each night, aren't warnings at all. They're signals. It means something has noticed you. If your lights just flickered while watching this, you might not be watching alone. Sweet dreams. Dreams have always been our escape. A place where the mind wanders freely, where anything can happen, and nothing can hurt us. But maybe dreams aren't escapes at all. Maybe, they're doors. And every door opens both ways. You think the world ends when you wake, but what if something follows you back? So tonight, when you close your eyes, make sure nothing's watching back. Good night.